this offer, it came through, it was accepted. If this thing had gone to litigation, we're talking
2 years at least, just as far as the litigation piece. And then just knowing what the building process would have been another 2, whether it resolved one way or the other, because no one can predict as far as if you go to court. But then it would have been another 2 years on top of that just to get the project moving. And you have to weigh that. And that was the thing I believe was compelling with the board that, we need to move on. And what we also share as far as what we agreed upon and what was accepted did not count also the FEMA dollars that we will also, once the bidding process starts, which is precursor to apply to FEMA, those dollars will come forth as well.
And for those thinking, well, now the insurance acceptance and approval has been in place, well, we're just going to see some demolition start the next week or so. Not necessarily the case. There are some other steps to complete. And you mentioned too the bidding and FEMA process being one of those. We have to get on the schedule for demo services, so that will take a little bit of time. But the big piece to this, with the settlement being approved, that was huge. But now we can move forward in getting these next steps taken care of. And
and it's one that maybe we don't present it as well as we could, but there's been comparisons all along as far as with private entities, whether it was the companies that were across the street from West Wilson Middle School to even some of the private schools, why we just couldn't pick up and move with it. Well, the first thing, we have different, and it's not even guidelines, it's really looking at rules and regulations.
Absolutely.
We have to follow, whether it's the bidding process, we have to follow that, period. And the other thing that people just didn't understand, if we went ahead and demoed those 2 buildings, we were still in the process of working with the insurance company that was watching everything that was either being reported in the paper and what we might be saying, but what might have been perceived as far as that we were going beyond what was going to be an allowance. And so we would have incurred any cost had we stepped out on anything, including
outside
taking the buildings
bounds.
down without getting it resolved with the insurance company. And I know that so many people couldn't understand that. But it's the same thing that we've got people now that are still in negotiations with their own homes that have not been resolved. But if they go ahead and replace without having something resolved with their insurance company,
they could get a rude awakening.
And they be held with expenses that they never anticipated. So there was a lot of that was going on with that. And then the process moving forward, again, everything has to be bid. There's rules in the regulations, but there's also the law that we have to follow with that process. And we are as eager as everyone else, but it's one that once we get through it, things will start moving because it's almost like a package as far as the bidding process with the demo and then how we place that out there. And
but the biggest domino was what happened on Monday night.
Monday opens the door.
Exactly.
And so now we can proceed. And we are just, so everyone knows, we're waiting on that transfer as far as the money being wired to Wilson County Schools, which also that's not understood, that if we do not show that there's a guarantee of funds available, we can't start the bid process or anything else, because if you think about it, on the contractor side, they need that guarantee. If we're going to go into this bidding process, which is a lot of work on their part of what they can provide based on our need, they have to be assured that it's not something that we're just doing a toe in the water to see if it's something we can do, not do. They need to have the assurance that if they're going to put their effort into this bidding process, that we are serious about moving forward. So
the other big piece the other night, information about Stoner Creek, a elementary village being created for next school year and for the duration of the project for Stoner Creek, for their school to be rebuilt, to take those students from Mount Juliet Middle, bring them back home of sorts, create the village. Again, it'll be portable units, 20 units, 2 classrooms per unit for a grand total that could hold up to nearly 800 students. So plenty of room there. There has been mixed comments about that, as we understand.
Of course.
But we do want to provide the reassurance that safety has been, always will be the top priority. And I think what I've gathered from some comments is that people seem to think that maybe this village is going to be right on top of an active construction and demo zone and all that, and here's your chance to clean that up a little bit.
And part of the criticism we've also received, and very little, I might add, was why did we not make this public? Why did we not discuss this? I took a concept to the board on Monday night, a concept, and gave them some information that they also need to know, and some of it they already knew. We are continuing to grow. We are enrolling new students, and particularly in the middle grades. And we had to come up with a solution as far as, and again, a temporary measure, but a solution as far as what we could do to alleviate what we now know and what we can project in our enrollment for next year. Stoner Creek's still enrolling as well. West Wilson Middle School. And it's one that parents are making conscious decisions as far as that this, again, is a destination place. People are moving to Middle Tennessee, and their jobs might be in Nashville, but they're deciding to reside in Wilson County. And I know that I've had several parents say, why would they do this when we're still trying to recover? Well, we don't know what drives that decision. But I think part of it, as far as the reputation of the schools, the quality of the education. I mean, you can go out there and you can see on the websites what's out there. Okay. So a decision had to be made. We were looking, and here we are 6.5 weeks out from the end of the year. West Wilson Middle School right now has some 7th and 8th grade classes that are maxed out. And knowing that we can project even more for next year, what's the best solution with all children in mind? Again, a temporary measure. And so with it, the concept was to look at what we could do on the campus of Stoner Creek. And again, you're talking about substantial acreage beyond the footprint of the school that's going to be replaced. Excuse me. And so when you look at the Robinson Gymnasium, which those that love and know Stoner Creek, that is a substantial building that during this storm, during the tornado, that withstood it.
Yeah.
The pressure brought the floor up a little bit, the roof held, the building held, and we know the rest of what happened to Stoner Creek. There's a substantial piece of asphalt parking in front of that building, plus a field where there's been soccer played. And so with that, we've got a footprint there that's not on and would not be on the construction site.
Right.
But will give us an allowance to create what I would like to say is a village.
Yes.
Just for elementary, K-5, that will not only house brand new units.
These are brand new portable units. These are not used and been shuffled around all across the country.
Self-contained.
Right.
And with each unit, you'll have 2 classrooms that, by the standards that the company that's produced these, would hold 32 and 32. No, we're limiting it to no more than 20 students per classroom, no more than 40 in a unit. That will all be ADA compliant. They will have ramps. They will heating and air, and each classroom has its own restroom facility as well. And so a lot of thought going into just looking at the research behind it, which, if you look at many of the large districts around us right now, Bart, they've had to resort to creating substantial portable buildings, for lack of another, because of growth and not being able to expand their existing facilities. So there a lot of thought, temporary measure, not a long-term solution, but a temporary measure, while construction will be going on off the site where we are putting this together. Security, one that, that when we look at how it was set up, and we're in the design phase right now as far as the layout, working with site engineers and those that are professionals that know far better than what my concept would be, and to make sure it works. We will be pushing information out, and as questions come in, we're going to consolidate those questions so people can look to see how much thought and deliberation is going into this. So,
and I'll pause right there. Rest assured, any Stoner Creek family throughout the duration of this creation of the village and how the process will go, I promise you, I will help guide you through that process, through information, videos throughout the summertime. So please know that'll be in place, and we'll guide you. We will shepherd you through this.
And and the other thing I want to add to this, as far as securing the property, I know that there was a little bit of a hiccup over the weekend where someone decided to take a tour, and that's simply not only not be allowed, but by the time we see this village as far as in place, you're going to see that buildings have been demoed; they're down, and then it's almost like as far as watching the beautiful construction it's going to take from afar. And when I say afar, it's not going to be sharing exactly the same footprint, but they can see it. It's going to be contained, fencing, gating, the whole thing. And I might add, we've had this somewhat of a construction feat on 7 different occasions since I've been here. And probably the one that would have been the most dramatic would have been Watertown Elementary School. Had substantial construction going on while children were in school and could within eyesight. And in fact, those youngsters have created a book, and let me just pull this out right here.
You got it.
I have it. Whoops. I have used this book. And the youngsters literally,
I've heard about this.
A year and a half time, the ABCs of construction, and it's beautiful. I mean, the pictures that were compiled. And
oh my goodness, my son would go crazy.
Oh yes, and when you look at it, it's just sweet. But the thing was, children were safe. They were never in harm's way.
Yeah.
And that's something that not only with the assurance, but also with the visual that you will create along the way to keep people informed
of what's going on, so they won't feel like, oh my goodness, I have no idea but we will. We'll make sure that happens. So more information about that. Let's move on to midweek, perhaps the shortest meeting in the history of meetings, at least that I've been part of.
Was it even 5 minutes? Because I wasn't in the meeting.
I know. You weren't in that one. It was about 5, maybe 6 minutes. Mr. Jeff Luttrell being voted in as our new director of schools, who will take over for you when you enter your joyous adventure of retirement at the end of June. Your thoughts on all of that?
It will be an easy transition, and I say that simply because when I came here 7 years ago, my first 2 weeks was the dedication of Watertown High School. And which, when I think back, it seems like so long ago, but really, 7 years. And that was my first introduction to Mr. Luttrell. And watching over time as far as how he works with people, how he is one that not only listens, but he also is one that he takes the time to really understand whatever the situation might be. But even if it's just a conversation, he is so genuine and thoughtful and deliberate about what he does. And I can't think of anyone better suited. And it's not about following me, but better suited to lead Wilson County Schools. And so there's a piece about that. I make no secret that out of 40 years, my 7 years here in Wilson County have been one that, when I think back, the most important, and one that there's been some hard times, but I mean, just the belief that there was so much good work here and working with such great people, that it's been the most important part of my professional career has been 7 years here in Wilson County. And so the feeling of knowing that Jeff Luttrell, and it'll be his stamp, his footprint, his thoughts and ideas as far as moving forward is, it's good. It's good.
Yeah,
I'm in a good place.
Good. If I was over a little over 60 days from retirement, I'd probably got a good place too. But we're so excited for you.
And I'm bittersweet. Everybody says, "Are you ready for retirement?" And the answer is no.
And I believe that. And
I love what I do.
It'll be a very difficult thing for you to leave, and I know it will be.
But it's time. It's time.
Right.
New leadership, and there's so much. When I think about what our folks, and when I say our teachers, our administrators, everyone that works within the Wilson County school system. And I don't need to remind people what a great place this is. And when you look at how much has been accomplished at each and every school on behalf of students. I mean, it's just, it's good. It's good.
You mentioned your career, and part of your career, a lot of your career was spent in Knox County. And they have had a very difficult week with Austin East.
30 years.
And yes, the bulk of your career spent in Knox County. I know that the tragedy that happened at Austin East earlier this week has weighed heavy on you, because you know a lot of the personnel involved over there.
I did a lot of work at Austin East High School.
A lot of work at Austin East High School. Your thoughts, and have you talked to anybody with Knox about this situation? And I know your thoughts and prayers, and as well as all of ours, go out to Knox County Schools as
That
they're dealing with
afternoon
a
that it
difficult
occurred,
week.
my phone was busy. I knew a lot of the faculty, including the administrator there at the school.
It's really an administrator's worst nightmare to know that
It's the one
happening.
that they wake up in the morning and pray that every day will be safe and secure. And, there's always that, the chatter about how could you not anticipate, how could you not know? And there's no way that you could forecast that. I mean, if you just look at what happens nationally with adults. And it's one that it'll take time to recover. There'll be so many people that will be looking at it as far as how could it have worked out differently, but you don't know. Back in 2008, there was a student loss at Central High School in Knox County. And it was just an exchange between two students before school even started on campus. The next year, the teacher got upset with a principal and came in and shot the principal and the assistant principal. And so when you look back, but also look at what's happened recently, how do you get down to as far as why something like this could occur and should occur, and how do you address it? For anyone to say that, would never happen here or could not happen here, or, superintendents don't say that. You don't. You just pray.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that when every day, take care of everyone, do the best you can, and pray that you never have that experience.
Well said. Again, our thoughts and prayers to those at Austin East and in the entire Knox County school system. A very difficult week. But it has been a busy week with our district as well. We've touched on a lot of that. This segment is a little bit longer, but with a lot of great information.
I'm not known for brevity, so.
It's been a little bit longer, but just important items to touch on, because one thing that Dr. Wright is very, is one thing she very much puts an emphasis on is transparency. And that's what I've been blessed with since I've been working with you, that you always let us know what's going on. So we touched on the insurance items, and then the Stoner Creek item as well. And again, I think that means a lot to those families involved as we continue to move on throughout this year and looking towards the next school year and those sorts of things. But much more information to come on all of that.
And the only thing, and I want to remind parents too that I know that they keep up with what's happening in other school districts, and particularly right now, there's it is this testing season, and I know that there's again a lot of misinformation that's floating around, and why this is happening in Rutherford County, what's happening in Williamson County. There is a wide testing window, but the thing I want to remind parents, this is a year of hold harmless. There is no punitive accountability, whether it's the student, whether it's the teacher, whether it's the school or the school district. And if anything, to look at it as an opportunity, as a diagnostic. We have really spent a lot of time this year, and it's been such a different year in so many different ways, whether we were remote, hybrid, coming back full time. The thing that we want to know, and again, by student, what is it that we need to support? Where do we need to accelerate? What do we need to do and go back and maybe reteach? And this gives us information that, in addition to what we've been doing all year long, how can we support a student? It doesn't count for a grade. It doesn't count against a teacher evaluation. It's not going to be a letter grade on the school. So it's an opportunity. And just want to reassure parents that we'll keep it as light as we can keep it, but help us on that. It's not a punitive measure.
Well, thanks again for all the information today. We hope that you have a great weekend. We hope our families have a great weekend, all our students, staffs, everyone. And we will definitely talk to you again very, very soon.
Thank you.
All right.